Welcome back. Washington, D.C. continues to dig out from that record-breaking snowstorm, but the severe weather did not stop massive crowds from showing up to the annual March for Life. But the crowds, well, they didn't appear to be all that big, at least according to the Washington Post and the New York Times. The New York Times headline here, hundreds brave snow at March for Life in Washington. And to the Washington Post, the headline here, as D.C. shuts down for the blizzard, a small, faithful crowd still joins the March for Life. But take a look at this. It doesn't look small to me. Massive crowds showed up, and after seeing the coverage in the Washington Post and the New York Times, a viewer sent us some of these pictures right here, saying the publications got it all wrong. Look at how big those crowds are. Also, Students for Life tweeted this out. If press coverage, hashtag March for Life, they can try to get the numbers right. This wasn't a low turnout like The Hill said. The Hill also blamed the snowstorm for a smaller turnout.
Wow. Newsmax chief Washington correspondent John Gizzi was also at that rally. And John, it's always a pleasure to have you here on Newsmax. Now, the crowds, as John just pointed out, look pretty big in those pictures that our viewers sent to us. Where do you think the New York Times, Washington Post, where do you think they're getting their numbers from?
Well, remember one thing. Anyone can throw up any number that they want because police long ago gave up giving out crowd estimates. They just do not win, and they're criticized for taking sides. They don't give crowd estimates for anything anymore that's related to politics.
All right, well, let me ask you. You were there. We're looking at these images. They say hundreds. Others are saying thousands. You were there. What's your best estimate?
I would say tens of thousands. Maybe 50 to 70,000.
Well, I'm not the best at math, but how do you...
That's a pretty big difference between hundreds and, 50. Yeah. That's enough to fill a football stadium, 70,000. 100 is maybe enough to fill a small campaign rally.
Right. It seems like quite a big difference there. So you were trying to say...
What I saw was a huge crowd on the mall near the Smithsonian, and the fact that it took about a half hour for the crowd to move towards Capitol Hill in their traditional procession. The very fact that I was able to interview so many people said that subjects for interviews kept coming and coming my way, and I just had to stand there, sometimes do a little walking, but that's why I think the crowd was certainly bigger than our sister publications said.
Which is pretty impressive when you consider the fact that it was a blizzard there, and D.C.'s been pretty much shut down. I'm sure having all those people there probably helped with the temperatures a little bit, John. The event was also attracted some big names, some from Congress, even some from Hollywood. Want to drop a few here?
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
I think that it was symbolic and very, very prescient that Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa, a favorite of evangelical Christians, was the opening speaker, followed by Congressman Chris Smith of New Jersey, a Roman Catholic and a traditional fixture at the March for Life rallies. And then Kelsey Grammer, who was the star of Frasier, famed to millions as Dr. Frasier Crane, and now the boss on his own television series, was there. But he wasn't there to speak or sign autographs. He marched with everyone else, and when someone asked him, posed for selfies. And that was a story in itself. You don't find many from Hollywood there. Kelsey Grammer dared the cold weather and was a star in many ways for being there.
Yeah, we saw quite a few smiles there, despite how frigid it looked.
Well, when you're in that type of environment, I mean, it's impressive. Kelsey Grammer also there. Also, that he's not there, as you mentioned, John, not there to speak, just wanted to go and experience it. And I'm sure that helped a lot of folks who may have been down about the weather. But the weather has been a challenge at the March for Life in the past. But this year was especially bad, as Miranda mentioned. But we have some video, too, we want to talk about that speaks to the type of folks who show up to these events. This is from the Holy Spirit Church in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. While they were on their way back, they got stuck in a snowstorm on the Pennsylvania Turnpike, but that didn't get them down. They just pulled over. They held a mass out there on the PA Turnpike. Pretty amazing, isn't it, John? John, pretty amazing to see these pictures, is it not?
Oh, certainly. And I'd also say that one reason I believe the crowd was bigger than some sources reported were the young people who were involved. This is clearly one of the youngest marches in the 43-year history of the March for Life.
Yeah, I wonder why that is, but interesting to see that. John Gizzi, thanks so much for joining us. Pleasure to have you, as always, for Newsmax Now.
Thanks for having me.
And there is still much more to come here on Newsmax Now. Take a look at these images. Do you see a resemblance? Leonardo DiCaprio and Vladimir Lenin? The deal being offered by a Russian studio for the Hollywood megastar to play the revolutionary communist leader. And it was a big weekend for endorsements in the presidential race. Ted Cruz picks up support from Glenn Beck and Rick Perry. See who else is taking sides on the campaign trail. We'll be right back.